Hello and welcome back to Lesson 3 of the Koine Greek mini course. Can you hear me now? A guide to pronunciation. If you haven't already, I would just encourage you to take the time to practice writing out the alphabet on the practice sheet provided in the previous lesson and finding an alphabet song to listen to as we talked about as well. This lesson will be a lot more difficult to follow if the alphabet has not been learned thoroughly. In this lesson, we're going to look at some Koine Greek words together so that you can hear the pronunciation. We will make sure to cover the Koine Greek alphabet along with each accent and breathing mark with these words that we're going through. You will learn a few new things in this lesson, but primarily we will take some time just to solidify the information given in the previous lesson. So don't worry about memorizing the vocabulary being used or anything like that, but just focus on the pronunciation. Let's get into it. Ha logos. Ha logos. Let's go through and name each letter. First one is an omicron with a rough breathing, so it's not ah, but ha. Then we have a lambda. Then we have another omicron with an accent. What kind of accent is that? It's an acute accent. Then we have gamma, omicron again. And then we have sigma. And this, if you'll recall, is the final form of the sigma. When a sigma is in the middle of a word, it's going to look different. Okay, let's move on to our next word. Patros. Patros. Let's go through the letters again. First is P or pi. Then we have alpha, tau, rho, omicron with an accent again, and here again it's acute. And then we have sigma in its final form again. Now we have chi. Chi. First letter is kappa. Then we have alpha. And then we have iota with an accent. What kind of accent is this? It's a grave accent. It's going down. Now, a quick note here, just a new thing to learn, is that when two vowels are put together like this, they are pronounced as one. This is called a diphthong, which is a word that's fun to say, hard to spell. Diphthong. We have these in English too, sort of like the English word aisle. We don't say a-I-zl, we say aisle. It's all pronounced together. So that is similar in Koine Greek. We have diphthongs, they have diphthongs as well. Our next word, a rotasan. A rotasan. First letter is eta with a smooth breathing, so there's no change, there's no H added to it. Then we have rho. We have omega with an acute accent. Tau, eta, sigma, so not the final form of sigma, but when it occurs in the middle of a word. Then we have alpha and nu. Next word, pempsessin. Pempsessin. First letter is P or pi, epsilon with an accent, and that's acute. Then we have mu, psi, alpha, sigma, iota, and nu. Apin. Apin. Epsilon, iota with a smooth breathing and a circumflex together. So you may have noticed that sometimes there are accents along with rough or smooth breathing. They can go together. It's just you have the emphasis as well as a rough breathing at the same time. Or in this case, a smooth breathing where you would just have the emphasis. So this again is a diphthong. These two vowels at the beginning are pronounced together, much similar to the English word receive. The E and the I in receive are pronounced together. Same with the epsilon and the iota at the beginning of apen. They're pronounced together. After that, we have P, epsilon, and nu. Next, we have hudor. Hudor. We have upsilon with a rough breathing and an acute accent. So we have the emphasis at the beginning and we have the H sound being added. So it's not udor, it's hudor. This is where we get our English word hydro from. It means water. Next letter is delta, then omega, and rho. Next word, thaumazo. Thaumazo. Theta, alpha, upsilon, and here again we have a diphthong. Similar to the English word audible, the A and the U at the beginning of audible are pronounced together. Same with here, thaumazo. Then we have mu, alpha with an acute accent, zeta, which you'll notice there's some differences on pronunciation here. Some people prefer to pronounce it with almost like a short D at the beginning, like zeta, zeta, and some just do zeta, and either way is fine. I've gotten in the habit of doing it with the short D, so I'll say thaumazo, whereas others might say thaumazo. And the last letter is omega. Next we have blepo. Blepo. Beta, lambda, epsilon with the acute accent, P, omega. Now we have adelphos. Adelphos. So we have alpha with a smooth breathing, so no change. Delta, epsilon, lambda, phi, omicron with an acute accent, and a final sigma. Next we have urkamai, urkamai, epsilon with a smooth breathing and an accent, rho, chi, omicron, mu, alpha, and iota. And there again we have a diphthong at the end with the alpha and the iota. The last word we'll look at, xenos. Xenos. Chi, or xi, epsilon with the accent, nu, omicron, final sigma. And just as a last note here, we have a few extras that we didn't really cover, but they do come up somewhat frequently. The first is what's called a diaeresis or an umlaut. So that's when two vowels are put together, but they're not a diphthong, meaning you don't pronounce them together. And in English, we have this very infrequently. The most common example is probably the word naive. So you don't pronounce it knave, you pronounce it naive, and that little diaeresis or umlaut is there to tell you that. So this word is mooses, mooses, which is the transliteration of the Hebrew Moses. The next is called an iota subscript. So this is where a tiny little iota appears underneath of a vowel. And this doesn't have any effect on pronunciation. It's probably left over from how the word has changed over time, which is called morphology. So this is pronounced hiero, hiero. So as we wrap up this mini course, I just wanted to take a few moments to give you some guidance on where to go from here, give you some tips for further study. The first is to find a grammar book. So I have introduced you to the history, the characters, the sounds of Koine, but we haven't touched on the grammar. And the grammar is what gives the language its structure and its set of rules that it operates by. Something that I do desire to add in future mini courses, but here again, the most abundant resources are associated with the Greek New Testament. I recommend the book Beginning with New Testament Greek by Benjamin Merkle and Robert Plummer. This is a very good introduction to the Koine Greek of the New Testament. Keeps it very simple and straightforward. Gives you just the things that you need to know. And after that, you can move on to an intermediate grammar if you want to. The second tip is to find a text. And again, the New Testament, there's a plethora of resources associated with that. And so the Gospel of John in the New Testament is some of the easiest Koine Greek that you can find. And so there are websites like sacredtext.com. If you go there and go to the left-hand side and scroll down to Bible, and then scroll down again to Greek New Testament, and it'll have in brackets GNT, that's just the shorthand for Greek New Testament. And then if you select John, and then whatever chapter or number you like, you can have that as a reading text that you can go through and work on your recognition and your pronunciation as well. The third tip would be to find a friend if you can. So reading together with a partner is of immense value, particularly if you're able to meet together in person for reading. Even if neither of you knows what's being said, you have the opportunity to encourage one another and to correct one another's errors in pronunciation. It's just been of immense help to me personally, is having a reading partner. The fourth tip I can give to you is to learn the vocabulary for your selected text. Here again, the Greek New Testament is the most popular Koine book, and so it has a plethora of resources to choose from. For example, there are sites like Quizlet, where you can find collections of flashcards that someone has put together for every word that occurs 25 times or more in the Gospel of John, just as an example. And those can be really helpful to actually learning how to read and translate what you are reading, is knowing vocabulary. Vocabulary building is something that takes a lot of time and a lot of mental energy and a lot of creativity. Being creative with how you intake that information can go a long way. And it's something that you'll have to keep working on and keep upkeep as you continue in your Koine Greek journey. Having said that, if you have any further questions or comments, please feel free to reach out to me at didascolearn@gmail.com. If you have enjoyed this mini course, I would be very grateful if you would take a minute or two to just write a brief testimonial as well. What are the things you enjoyed about this course, so that I can share that and others can enjoy it as well. Thank you for being part of this mini course, and may this only be the beginning of your Koine Greek journey.